Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar, and thanks for joining us. I hope everyone has been safe and healthy over the past several months. We'll probably kick it off in about a minute or two as folks trickle in, and then I'm excited to share with our partners AWS and Lovelytics some really cool information about site selection and also the demo that we've got listed. So we'll probably get underway in about a minute or two. Great. Why don't we go ahead and get started? We've got a ton to cover today. So anyway, thank you for everyone who's joined this webinar. We've got some really interesting information to share here and a really cool demo in Tableau that's been built on Foursquare data by Lovelytics and AWS that we want to demo. So I'm Arjun Reddy. I'm Foursquare Senior Director of Channel Partnerships, and I've spent the past several years in the location data space and really acutely focused in the last couple of years at Foursquare on helping our customers actually utilize and find ROI on Foursquare's location data sets, but very specifically in the platforms and tools of their choosing. And as probably many of you know, living and breathing in thinking about site selection daily, taking location data and very large amounts of location data and actually applying it to your work processes is not as simple as it may seem. So, I think some of you are probably thinking Foursquare, isn't that check-in app from a decade ago? And honestly, the answer is yes, we still are that check-in app. We still have a couple of different mobile applications that are used by millions of users globally on a monthly basis, but we do actually a lot more now. You can see here a little bit of the evolution. Over the past decade, we've shifted from purely that B2C company to more of a B2B location data platform, right? We help our customers measure, ad spend to impact on store visitation. We work with, chief data officers on improving demand forecasting models. We help retail companies make better staffing optimization decisions. If you've ever geotagged a tweet that's powered by the Foursquare Places API, if you ever searched for a place in Uber, that's in part powered by Foursquare Places data. And increasingly so, we help retailers, QSRs, and hospitality companies optimize site selection decisions. And so on today's webinar, we're going to dive into site selection specifically and demo a tool that that was mentioned that's built on Tableau with Amazon and Lovelytics, and we'll also be highlighting some of the pitfalls companies run into when evaluating and incorporating location data. And before we launch into that, I wanted to give some of our awesome panelists from AWS and Lovelytics a couple of minutes to introduce themselves and what they do. So Stephen.
Stephen, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? How many times have we all heard that over the last 9 months? Apologize for that. When a hardware button and a software button get out of sync, that happens. Pleasure and an honor and a privilege to be sitting here virtually alongside of everybody today. I am Stephen Ellenson, based out of New York City, and I head the worldwide restaurant, catering, and food service practice here at AWS, and I'm part of a larger travel and hospitality team that's dedicated to the specific needs of the travel and hospitality industry.
Great. And I'm Mohsen Malik. I am the global category lead for location data on AWS Data Exchange. For those of you that are not familiar, AWS Data Exchange is a relatively new service launched by AWS in the past year that makes it really easy for our customers to exchange data. Something we've kind of consistently heard across industries is that our customers want the ability to quickly discover, subscribe to, and leverage third-party data. The challenge is that much of the ways in which data is exchanged is pretty antiquated and not cloud native. And what Data Exchange does is it gives our customers an access to a catalog of over 2,600 data products, 150 plus data providers, including Foursquare. And now you can search, browse, discover, and subscribe to third-party data within a matter of minutes. Once you're subscribed to one data product or 100 data products, all that's now delivered with a single API. So you no longer have to manage the mix of delivery methods from different providers. And it's natively integrated with all the other AWS services that you likely use. We give enterprises that single view of how third-party data enters their enterprises, then federated out to different teams. And then we also simplify billing, which is music to the ears of anyone in a procurement role. And I would say that location data is probably one of our more popular categories since we've launched. It's been leveraged by nearly every customer within retail for a variety of use cases. I know today we'll touch deeply on site selection, but the data is really, really impactful to try to paint that 360 view of the consumer, understand their behaviors, their habits, their interests, and then also for benchmarking and understanding new market segments. I think especially in the wake of COVID, location data has been even more critical for our customers. It's no easy task to try to estimate demand, manage inventory during things like shelter in place or reopening transitions. Consumer behavior has changed so drastically, and in some cases stopped completely. So the historical sales data that our customers have is no longer really applicable, and they need new data sources to help serve as proxies for consumer shopping behavior. And location data has really been that. And so I think if you look at the past year, in general, we've seen a trend towards location data that I think COVID just, if anything, accelerated and have made our customers understand that they need to adopt a location data strategy for a variety of use cases, including site selection. So excited for us to dig into that more today.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon to some. My name is Scott Love. I'm based in the Washington, D.C. metro area, and I run an organization called Lovelytics. And what Lovelytics is an analytics services and company. We're certified Foursquare partners and AWS partners as well. We're also partners of Tableau, which we're going to be presenting in today. As I mentioned, we're headquartered in the D.C. area. We have offices in Cleveland and also in Toronto. And really our main focus areas, if we try to break them down, is data visualization, which I'm going to showcase a bit of today, data integration, being able to bring that data into the environment in an effective and performant way, predictive and advanced modeling, which will showcase kind of the framework around that, and also geospatial analytics, which plays a huge part with this location data, obviously. So very excited to be a part of this today and looking forward to walking you through the demo here later.
Awesome. So now that you know who you're going to be hearing from over the next half an hour or so, let's go ahead and jump into it. You know, the complex challenges of site selection. Every single time we have a conversation with a company about site selection, you learn something new and something novel about the way they approach it. It never sort of ceases to amaze me. So why is site selection important? It's honestly fairly simple, and it's one of the reasons the demand for location data from GIS or retail planning teams across industries has really spiked at Foursquare. You know, honestly, making the wrong site recommendation for a new location, or conversely, and honestly, in the COVID world we live in, maybe potentially closing down the incorrect location. It's incredibly expensive. There are a couple of quotes on screen that you know, just really sort of capture it eloquently. You know, making the wrong selection, a leading QSR told us, making the wrong selection recommendation, wrong site recommendation, costs them $2 million every time they do it. Not to mention the amount of time and effort that is spent on the local market level in developing that. And the second one actually touches on something we'll briefly touch on later in this presentation about, location data is a complex space. There's a lot of, it's a constantly evolving, and regulatory things are constantly impacting the location data space. It's as you were investing your time and effort and energy on building systems on top of location data, what should you be looking for in a location data partner? So here are some examples of common questions that we've heard from our clients that they're looking to answer with location data, and I'm sure this is not an exhaustive list, but these are things that we've heard from a Foursquare perspective. So, in a COVID world, is your consumer behavior actually changing? Are your consumers now shifting only to pickup if you are a QSR retailer? What is the difference in day part visitation patterns for a particular store versus a different store? Honestly, something as simple as, is my trade area actually correct? Is my assumption of my trade area actually correct? Am I actually pulling in the customers from, the zip codes or census block groups that are nearby? Or is there something, sort of unexpected happening with commuters going from, 20 minutes away, passing by, stopping and picking up, let's say, breakfast at a certain QSR that maybe was not anticipated? A really straightforward question is, how are my locations indexing compared to competitors, right? If you are a gas station owner, is my gas station pulling in more traffic than maybe the gas station across the street? And then, as you start to answer those sort of building block questions, really building, I think, foundational sort of elements around, predictive analytics, like, are my trade areas, is there commonalities between my trade areas? And, answering, I think, the most relevant question, if I close this location right now, am I going to lose all of the revenue that location has been generating? Or is part of that actually going to be captured by maybe the next closest location that I operate? And you can, as you're thinking about that, that is something where, that is a blend of not just location data, but also your first party transaction data and your understanding of your customers as well. And so that obviously amplifies, I think, the challenge behind site selection, some of the problems that I think a lot of you are trying to work through and solve today. So, again, a lot of you are probably familiar with location data, but there's a wide range of types of location data that we see customers use. They range from as simple as point of interest. What is this location? Is this a McDonald's or is this a Burger King? Is this a Shell station or an Exxon station? What, that is surprisingly a very difficult thing to find, not just in the US, but also internationally. What is the foot traffic to these locations? What is the relative foot traffic to these locations? A lot of companies use shape files, right, to do spatial analytics. Location-based demographics. What are the personas of the people that have come to my location? Are they, for example, fitness fanatics? Do they go to Walmart 4 times a month? There's obviously transactional data that will help if you're trying to understand sort of the revenue per location. And then of course, as very importantly, is your own first party data. To really optimize, I think what our customers have seen, to really optimize their site selection sort of decision making, blending that first party data with third party location data is just absolutely vital to solving that. And so, last slide on location data specifically, like, as you were talking to location data companies or location data vendors, here's sort of a checklist of things that you should be thinking about. How I would highlight a couple of these as very, very sort of important, especially in this evolving landscape that we live in. How is your data sourced? Is it really, I'm sure a lot of you asked this, but it's really important, really understanding, is the sourcing of this data sustainable in a changing regulatory environment? And part and parcel to that, do you feel aligned with the vendor you're working with from a privacy standpoint? I think, one thing that we hear a lot from our customers is, if my partner is maybe not collecting location data, especially GPS data, in a privacy compliant, but also user-centric manner, consumer-centric manner, is that going to potentially blow up in my face and become a front page sort of problem, or is this not sustainable over the long run? Will this vendor continue to sort of operate in this manner over the long run? Am I going to make long-term decisions and long-term process decisions based upon that? And so these are, again, we'll share this with you, but I think privacy, growth, the operability, and quality are all 4 things that that you should be looking for as you're thinking about location data as a part of your site selection process. And so now that we've sort of touched on how Foursquare customers have what questions they've asked us, what they're looking for from a location data standpoint, I want to transition over and pass it on to Steven to share some insights he's seen on the restaurant, catering, and food service industry, from the AWS lens.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear now. Again, an honor and privilege to be here. I'm fortunate that I've been in the industry for more than 30 years, and I came up through operations. And I once had a great mentor say to me that it's real estate. So you always got to remember, right? Location, location, location. For him, it was about, if you get the right location, he felt that the business had endless potential. You still had to deliver on operations, you still had to be clean, you still had to provide exceptional levels of guest service, but you had that huge upside. If you got that location wrong, basically your brand was destined to fail. He used to always follow it up with saying that a business needs to have enough of the right kind of traffic in order to succeed. Quantity was important, but quality was actually of a higher value to him. If I could have just followed him around the country and purchased all the real estate next to where he purchased real estate, I could have long since retired a long time ago. I'm fortunate to work with brands around the world in every single segment of the industry: quick service, full service, fine dining, catering, concessions, and the like. A select list of some of our AWS customers are represented on the screen. When I speak with those customers, they've shared with me that they've begun to rethink how they utilize data and how they're improving their decision making. I'm kind of coining this term, the concept of a digital first store. It's kind of like when you used to hear organizations say they were taking a cloud first mentality or a mobile first mentality. Restaurants are rethinking how they use their physical assets and physical locations in order to support the movement of consumers to all of these digital channels. If you've been following the news recently, there are major brands like Starbucks, Dunkin', Burger King, and Taco Bell that have been sharing all of their plans. Some involve actually new restaurant designs exclusively for like dual drive-through and curbside pickup. Others talk about the relocation of stores away from downtown business corridors into more rural settings where consumers can have rapid pickup with easy ingress and egress. They've also taken a look at their store analytics. They use all the things that were shared with you earlier in the session, but they also have started to heighten or increase the focus on where their guests are coming from and where else they're shopping. Think of these new definitions of essential services that have emerged. They want their outlets to have a great proximity and location to those other essential services that have gained in importance in our society. The most insightful innovation I can share actually is more of a human or cultural one. And it was the addition of a supply chain expert onto the store development team. Now, first blush, that doesn't necessarily make sense, but I'll share with you kind of why. These supply chain experts are specialists in what's known as network optimization. When you think about them in the past, they were designing manufacturing, logistics, and distribution points in order to have an optimal and efficient delivery of product into the restaurants. Well, now that restaurants are starting to experiment and grow ghost kitchens and virtual brands, this not only impacts supply chain, it also impacts how you operate as a brand itself. So think about it. Your consumer could get food supplied to them from any one of 3 potential locations in their area, including some that are dark and potentially unbeknownst to them. And so store development now needs to be network optimized. So gaining this expertise from these supply chain experts is driving amazing innovation for the brands who are smart enough to think about taking a different approach. Brands are also starting to value the insights that they get from all of these third-party data solutions. When they think about changing their network optimization and how they design and deploy, it helps them to boost their confidence. They're growing and optimizing those networks across all sorts of different markets, and they're becoming much more data-driven, moving away from gut and instinct. There are still operators out there that I interact with that still rely on boots on the ground. There are individuals who are driving around trying to scour and find those prime locations. Additionally, the definition of a prime location is changing. No longer is it necessarily based on who else is a tenant in a given strip mall. There are other resulting factors that determine quality for a brand. And so they want to rely on third-party data in order to make even better and informed business decisions. I've been fortunate to get to know Foursquare as a partner. You've heard about how they set the bar extraordinarily high in improving the quality of data. I'm also fortunate to work with Motion on the AWS Data Exchange, and it makes it very simple for customers and brands to be able to leverage this data. So in closing, I would say the desire for this valuable third-party data is only going to continue to increase. Restaurant brands are looking to augment their insights that they have from their first-party data with what's available, and they're going to continue to look for and find partners and platforms that allow them to reduce their risk and speed up their experimentation. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thanks, Stephen. So now just wanted to take some time to really, I'm going to step through a demo for a majority of this, but really wanted to touch a bit upon why we came up with this solution and really the idea behind it, with the hopes of really laying a foundation for what we're going to be showcasing here in a bit. So what we've come up with here is site selection analytics, and it's using the Foursquare visits data feed. And what we've come up with is an out-of-the-box analytics package to efficiently analyze Foursquare data. The idea behind it was a lot of organizations are purchasing Foursquare data. It's extremely large data volumes, and we really want to find a way to simplify that process so that right out of the box, you can purchase it, and then you can have access to those analytics. And a lot of those pre-built, and it allows our team to continue to enhance the insights that organizations can get based upon feedback we get from people like who are on the call today. Additionally, we know there's a need to fully customize this interface and data points. So when I say the interface, making something that's on brand, making sure that it fits the brand standards and the style of an organization. When I say data points, I'm referring to maybe the competitors that you would like to see on the map. So if we're looking at starting a burger restaurant, we're going to compare ourselves to McDonald's and Burger King and Five Guys. We want to know where those organizations are. We want to be able to enhance that data analysis by allowing organizations to add in their own first-party data. I know Arjun talked about this earlier, but really being able to take your data, combine that with Foursquare, and then create a very visual and interactive interface is critical. And as a solution, it's simply just a purchase add-on to a Foursquare data purchase. If we go to the next slide there. So why use this, right? I touched on a bit. Obviously, we want to make it a lot easier. But really, when it comes down to a business perspective, we need to be able to give you better customer insights. We want to be able to help you understand where you should be placing your next location with all of the different data points that we have. For example, if we wanted to target a specific customer segment, we want to be able to say, hey, historically, females 30 to 35 have a large presence of visits within this area, so it would be a good fit for your organization. Now, I know a lot of you are making much more detailed decisions than based on age and gender, but did want to give a quick example. Additionally, that interactivity, being able to allow you to ask questions of that data. I think days of getting a printout or a PowerPoint of very static information are gone. We want to be able to say, okay, we want to place a location in Denver. How about the northeast side of Denver? Okay, that doesn't look great based upon the amount of visits. How about we go to the northwest? We need to stop relying on people, either boots on the ground or maybe IT that we have to work with. We really want to make this something very simple in that way. The advanced analytics piece is really, to me, where a lot of the benefits can come from. Our team's been hard working on developing some predictive models and some advanced analytics to be able to allow organizations to say, hey, historically, visits have been very good in this location, but moving forward into the future, based on all of this historical data that we have, here's what we can expect for visits. And that goes down to the day level, maybe the hour level, even the minute level, depending on the organization that we're working with. We can do a lot of other types of predictive analytics, and I'll walk through some of the advanced analytics that we can do around customer segmentation here in a bit. And lastly, simple. I want to emphasize this is built for business users. We did not want to create something that was built for IT or that required someone with a coding background. It's all out of the box, and you'll see from what I show here in a second that it is very simple for those users to use. And so quickly, for those on the IT side who are interested in how we built this demo, we use the AWS Data Exchange to get that data from Foursquare. We used Amazon S3 for storage and Redshift to be able to then push that data into Tableau, where the visualizations were done, and they're able to render at a performant basis, even though we're working with millions and millions and millions of rows that are coming into the infrastructure here. And so now I'll jump into the demo, which I think most of you probably care about the most here. Just a quick background on the demo. What the demo is going to be is showcasing that we're a burger restaurant and we'd like to build a new location in Denver, and getting an idea of what that looks like through the process of using this tool. So let me share my screen quickly. And so for those of you not familiar with Tableau, this is a dashboard built within Tableau, and I've uploaded this to our Tableau server, which can be shared across the organization and also limited to different users. This can be done for, if you wanted only a site selection or only the retail team to be able to access this, that's absolutely possible. So what we have is a very simple landing page here. Again, everything customizable here. I've made something fairly generic for the demo here today. We really have two dashboards that are coming out of the box today. This is an ever-growing list of dashboards and models that you'll see. So if we wanted to start, let's say we wanted to go to location analysis. I'll select location analysis, and it'll quickly populate a Tableau dashboard that consists of data only within Denver. Now, for this use case, we can absolutely use information across the United States. For this case, we just wanted to be able to analyze Denver, because that's where we wanted to place our next site location. Now, what you'll see out of the box here is we have every location that we've purchased. So we have different retail organizations, mostly quick serve restaurants that are here. So the Subways, the McDonald's, the Starbucks of the world. And then we also have that broken down by foot traffic at those locations. So within the Denver area, we have 511 Starbucks. Those 511 Starbucks have about 795 million visits during this data period that we have here, which I believe is across the course of 1 year. So what we have is now, let's say we want to place a new location, and we want that location to be at 8400 Washington Street in Denver. What I'll do is go ahead and select that location, and you'll see that a blue point is made here, and automatically an isochrone map is created. Now, what an isochrone map is it allows you to be able to see with driving distance, walking distance, and cycling distance, what is around me. So from here, out of the box, we have a 30-minute drive from this location, and you can see this outside point is highlighting what is 30 minutes, and it has gone ahead and filtered those locations. So now we're only showcasing the information over here on the right-hand side that has those locations. So where before we had 511 Starbucks, within 30-minute drive, we now only have 273 Starbucks. Additionally, we're starting to see some high-level KPIs here on the right-hand side. So this is analyzing traffic on a weekly basis. You'll see later in the year, traffic seems to dip. So let's say you wanted to put in a retail store for clothing. You can start to see, hey, during Christmas time, there's actually not a lot of people who are here. In this situation, we're building a burger restaurant. Traffic is fairly standard, which is okay for what we're trying to do. Additionally, for different industries, it matters when those people are coming and visiting. In this situation, you'll see a time and day analysis. So we've got time across the top and day across the bottom. And you can see, like most locations, middle of the day is the most popular time for those visitors. But hypothetically, if we were wanting to build a nightclub here, maybe not the best location, as we're not seeing anybody around 10 or 11 p.m. or later into the night. Lastly, maybe we want to look at demographics. So here at this specific location, we're seeing slightly more male visitors, and we're seeing a slightly younger skew of individuals, with the majority of those being between 20 and 24 years old. So maybe there's a university close by, maybe this is just a younger part of town. But now we can really drill into this a bit further. And what we've got is a couple different options. Now, we've got our points up here. Let's say, actually, we don't want to look at every competitor because we're just building a burger restaurant. We want to look at McDonald's. So let's go ahead and select McDonald's. And you'll see the point here on the right-hand side that gives you the color of that location. I'll go ahead and select Burger King, which is going to give us some blue points on the map. And then let's go ahead and select Wendy's as well. So 3 competitors if we're looking to build a burger chain, significantly reducing the amount of points that we're working with. But also you'll see on the right, we're starting to see of those locations that are within 30 minutes, it's breaking down this information. So still with these burger restaurants, we're seeing more males and females, but it is skewing a little bit older from 25 to 29. Now, let's go ahead and look at this in a couple different ways. So right now we're just seeing the data points. The data points are showing where those exact locations are, but maybe we want to see foot traffic. Let's go ahead and select the bubbles. Now, what the bubbles are doing is showcasing where is there a lot of foot traffic occurring. So we're starting to see little pockets of areas here. Now, in more downtown areas, you're able to see this a little bit better. But in this situation, we can see, hey, around these locations, there's reasonable traffic with the larger bubbles compared to some of the others. This Burger King, for example, not seeing as much traffic as this McDonald's is here. Maybe the one that I think is most valuable in this view is selecting the cluster view. So what the cluster view is going to show you is, of all these locations, where are they at? So we can see within this 10-minute driving radius, we've got 5 up here and 4 down here. Now, as we drill down, we have custom zoom levels. You'll see they start to split. So one of those points is actually down this way. As we zoom in, we still have 2 here. We'll continue to zoom, and it'll get down to that point level. So again, trying to give people different views and ways to look at this. Now, let's say we want to go back to this point level, and we want to be able to say, hey, what about these locations here? This is next door. This is the McDonald's. They get about 3.8 million visits within this data set that we have. But where are those customers coming from? Now, this is important because let's say you have locations around Denver. You don't want to necessarily cannibalize a lot of your business that's there. We want to understand, are we pulling customers from zip codes that are actually in locations where we don't have other locations, as we don't want to risk our business? Now, I'll go ahead and select this McDonald's, and it'll pull up a new zip code view. Now, this McDonald's has a lot of visitors from a lot of different locations. The whiter the location or the lighter the location, you're able to see where those individual users are coming from. Or those visitors are coming from. So as you can see, fairly spread out here. Over here in Broomfield, we're not seeing as many. So if you have a lot of locations in this area, you're safe. If a lot of your locations are up here in the top right, you might be a little bit more worried. You can also overlay some of our competitors to see where those individuals lie as well, if we were interested in overlaying that over the zip codes to see, hey, maybe why are there none of these locations? For example, there's maybe no store locations there. So let me go back here and just take a different look at another way for us to look at this information. So what we've been able to do here is say, hey, at 8401 Washington Street, those are the different locations that are close by. We'll hide those zip codes, and we're looking at this from a driving distance perspective. Let's see walking. Maybe that's a better way, because if we have let's say there's a college campus nearby, a lot of people are walking. Now all of a sudden we say, hey, there's actually only 2 chains that are within here, both of those being McDonald's. So that's going to be really our only competitor from a walking perspective, and give you a little bit better insight into where things are at, depending on where you'd like to place that location. So now that we've been able to do this location analysis, our goal is to then provide subsequent analysis that comes with this. So let's take a look at some advanced analysis that we have here. And what this advanced analysis will pull up here is a separate visualization, very similar look and feel to what we had earlier. And we already pre-selected 8401 Washington Street, which happens to have a Taco Bell there currently, so it does give us a bit of insight. So let's say we were owning this Taco Bell, and we wanted to see, hey, what is close by for where our customers are going. So what this visualization is showing is, of the customer base of the Taco Bell at 8401 Washington Street, what other locations are they going to? Why is that important? Because maybe through partnership opportunities, maybe through marketing, in this situation, we're starting to see, okay, 1 hour before they visited this Taco Bell, where were people going the most? We found that 1 hour before, the Walmart Supercenter close by had the largest amount of visits before. So this gives you an idea of that path of where are people coming from before they're hitting my restaurant. The 7-Eleven, King Soopers, Safeway, are there any competitors that are there? In this situation, some of them came from another Taco Bell, or maybe they came to the same Taco Bell and came back. So a lot of different options that you have there. But diving into this a bit further, maybe we want to see actually what are the favorite chains. So outside of an hour before, which is helpful, what are the favorite chains just all time for those people? And that would be the Walmart Supercenter, King Soopers, McDonald's, Rotella Park. You're starting to see a lot of the similar ones that are here. But what we're trying to get out of this is to get outside of only site selection. Can we bridge this into marketing? Can we start to look at, hey, where should we be marketing based upon the customer base that we know we're attracting? And also we can break this down into the zip code level. If we want to see, hey, for our customers who are coming from 80634, where are they going the most? So in this situation, McDonald's, Subway, Starbucks, Wendy's, we're starting to see very quickly, hey, there's a lot of QSRs that are in this location compared to those in the other locations going to Walmarts and others. Now, the map can work in a very similar way, and we have the exact same metrics over here that can be showcased on the map. So right now we have top venues visited. So my locations here, these are the favorite locations all time of those individuals. To no surprise, they all seem to be surrounding these locations. But there are some outliers, right? We do have some locations where, hey, there are a lot of people coming from this location. This is a Cheesecake Factory, way out, maybe 20-minute drive from where we are. Additionally, we can look at those venues visited within 1 hour, heavy majority of those being obviously within 10 minutes, but some people are driving from fairly far distances to be able to get there within 1 hour. So you do start to see where those locations are that individuals are coming from. Lastly, the other piece is we do allow a bit of interactivity here. If you want to be able to change the look and feel of the map, if the streets are seeming a bit too much for you to view, you are able to update the street. You're able to get rid of some of the map labels that are out there as well. So hope that gave everybody a quick overview of what's possible here. Again, all of this is customizable. And when you do purchase this add-on, it does come with customization hours that are included for our team to build additional dashboards like this or other predictive or advanced analytics that your team's most interested in visualizing. So if you do have any insight or feedback or things that you would like to see, please reach out to us. We're absolutely taking a lot of feedback on that right now. So with that, I'll pass that back to Arjun here. And let him wrap it up, or Mohsen maybe.
Awesome, thank you, Scott. So the Foursquare team and the Lovalytics team have put together a listing available on AWS Data Exchange that comes with 24 hours of customization and integration support provided by Lovalytics. It's available. We'll send this link out as a follow-up to the webinar. But once you browse the catalog, you'll see that in addition to this product, Foursquare's got 15 other products, 8 of which are free sample products that you can subscribe to immediately. And they'll also create a free sample listing for site selection specifically. So really seamless to access this data, subscribe to it, download it, and then take full advantage of the Lovalytics team to stand up a site selection solution or other solutions you might need.
Great. Thank you, guys. Thanks for that demo. We've got about 8 minutes left before we wrap up here, and we've gotten a few questions. But for anyone on the webinar who has other questions, please use the questions tab to submit some more, and we'll try to get to them. If we can't, we will send you a follow up with the answers. So the first question. Is actually for Stephen, and you sort of touched on this earlier, but do you think COVID is fundamentally changing how restaurant and dining companies invest in physical experiences for their customers? It sounds like that's something you're seeing, but is that true? Is that the case? Stephen, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry. The organizer has control over my microphone, not myself. So I appreciate that. No, absolutely it is. And thank you both for the insights you provided and that Scott provided. I would just share that when I speak with industry customers, what they tell us is they want to automate and optimize the activities that he just shared and described to us. So some still share some shocking insights that they only perform this kind of analysis on maybe 6 to 8 of their markets in a given year. Some do it only on an ad hoc basis, kind of like the example Scott was walking through. And yet others tell me they will only do it like maybe on a yearly or twice every 2-year kind of refresh. And when you think about it, restaurant brands are now aspiring and looking towards other organizations that have become algorithmic businesses. So they all aspire to become like Netflix or like Amazon.com e-commerce. And what that means is that you fully automate those activities and turn them into predictive analytics. So instead of having to rely on analysts, doing heavy lifting and running these things manually, again, 6 to 8 times a year or ad hoc, the system is using machine learning and always doing that on your behalf in the background. And then it extracts for you those insights, or the outliers that then the analyst can dive deeper into and pay attention to. And so in essence, site selection almost becomes a positive strategic game where these opportunities are presented to you and then you go take advantage of them, as opposed to the inverse today where it's sort of an after the fact analysis and then potentially you're competing with your competitors. So we absolutely see brands utilizing services that are presented here and systems like AWS and Amazon SageMaker in order to build machine learning algorithms to power their businesses going forward.
Awesome. That's super interesting, especially the application of ML to maybe enabling some of the folks on the webinar to actually maybe cover more potential locations in a scalable way. A question came in for Mohsen actually. What is, given that you guys are sitting in a marketplace where you're seeing both the buy and sell side on data, structured data. What's the most, you had mentioned you'd seen a great demand for location data. What is the most innovative use case that you guys have seen that you can sort of speak to?
Yeah, the two most popular ones are site selection, hence this webinar, and developing an omnichannel strategy. I think customers are accelerating their shift to digital as a sales channel, and wanting to make sure that they're giving their customers a seamless experience across mobile, web, and physical. And how can you do that without location data? The most innovative, though, I will say, was in the peak of COVID, a global food manufacturing company operates manufacturing plants that sell to grocery, but then also sell to the restaurant industry. The restaurant industry obviously shut down in the peak of COVID, and the demand was through the roof for the grocery. So they repositioned their manufacturing plants that were selling to restaurants to go sell to the groceries. The challenge was that they needed to be able to quickly, they needed 3 weeks lead time to convert those manufacturing facilities that sell to restaurants back to restaurant plants. And they used foot traffic data to do that. So they looked at foot traffic data across their biggest restaurant channel partners, tracked that day over day, week over week. Once they got strong signal that there was actually more reopening on the horizon, we're able to reposition those back to selling to restaurants. So I thought that was a really great way that you saw customers leverage the value of location data when really no other data source is available.
That's really neat. Yeah, again, it always amazes me how companies are innovative with how they're using some of these location data sets to solve, new use cases every day, it seems like.
Yeah.
So I think we've got time probably for 1 or 2 more questions. And we've got a bunch that have come in here for Lovalytics. So Scott, a couple of quick questions for you. One is, as you guys obviously are familiar with Foursquare data and location data in general, what are some of the technical hurdles your clients have run into when using large and complex sort of location data sets?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really twofold that we see. I think some of like the venture-backed, rapidly expanding retail organizations that we've worked with, a lot of times they don't even have the infrastructure set up really to be able to handle a lot of this data. They're still using Excel or antiquated databases. So for us, I think that's why we've been able to offer this by saying, hey, we can either host this for you from a data perspective, or they can host it themselves. But the biggest concern is a lot of times just the performance of the data, that they're able to get it into Tableau, they're able to get it into whatever visualization tool they want to use, but not being able to make it performant. So that's where a lot of times our teams worked with the organizations to be able to help kind of refine that process to make sure it is buzzing pretty quickly.
Cool. And then one quick follow-up as we wrap up here. We've talked a lot about location data specifically and its application towards site selection, but I think we've touched on other potential data sets that might be sort of value enhancing in terms of that site selection analysis. Given your expertise in geospatial, what have you seen your customers or your team what have you guys seen in terms of complementary data sets? Maybe it's first-party data, maybe it is third-party data that you think can enhance the site selection process for some of the folks on the webinar?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it really breaks down more to like what can enhance it. When I think about enhancing, I think like if your company has loyalty data and they have the locations or zip codes of all of their clients, and we want to overlay actual client data for your clients today. I think about customer segmentation. If you have specific personas you're going for, really overlaying that and say, hey, we want to go after income levels that are at this age, gender, whatever it may be. And then there's also more like validating some of these findings, which is more of like, if you have traffic for your current locations today, whether you ShopperTrack or RetailNext or whatever people may be using, overlaying that data to say, hey, we know that this store is doing well. Let's figure out why this store is doing well based upon the data and the analysis that we can perform.
Cool, that's super helpful. And I know we're at time, so just to wrap up for everyone on the webinar, thank you for obviously joining. And if you have any questions on what is presented, if we didn't get to your questions at all, you will receive a follow-up from us. But please don't hesitate to reach out to Amazon, to Foursquare, or to Lovalytics if you wanted to actually sort of test the waters, or wanted to understand more about capabilities, or just generally have questions on location data or site selection. thank you again for joining, and have an awesome rest of the week.